You're listening to Edge Radio TV. The views and opinions expressed in this program are that of the hosts or guests, and not the Edge Radio Network or its advertisers or affiliates.
Hello, my Edgy Entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Edgy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Jenn Coleman-Ayers. My co-host today, Rob Smith with 5S Business Sales Consulting. We are here to talk about what are you still waiting for permission to do. I was inspired when I met Rob, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking. And it was just, you had pivoted and launched your now, career during COVID. So,
that's true.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. I know people are always waiting for, permission to try or permission to fly or permission to dare. And, I was having this conversation too about failing, like fail faster. You don't have to wait for permission. Just go, just do it. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about your exciting story.
Yeah, so when I talk to people, and tell them about what I do and kind of the timing of when I started that, generally I get the question, oh, you were a part of a downsizing. I'm like, no.
I chose to do
this. I chose this. And I did.
Right.
I had started the planning process prior to COVID and was kind of like at the altar whenever the shit hit the fan.
Right.
And press through.
Yeah.
So it's been a journey.
Definitely. So sales consulting. Tell us a little bit about what actually that is and what you do.
Sure. Well, let me start with what I'm not.
Okay, there you go. Even better.
Because again, 5S Sales Consulting, and I get up and do commercials. You know how it is at networking events, and people tend to categorize, oh, you're a sales coach.
Yes.
Or you're a sales trainer.
Yeah, you definitely have a unique niche in this.
And it's not either of those things.
No.
Those are valuable things. And I have people in my network that are sales coaches and are sales trainers. We're not competitors.
Right.
I'm a fractional sales leader. And I'm sure everybody knows what that means.
Absolutely not. No.
No. So think of me as a hired gun.
That's why we're here having this conversation. Because I think it's really interesting what you do. And I think what you offer entrepreneurs, people that are looking to really grow their business and their industry.
Yeah.
You bring a unique niche and opportunity to them.
Yep. So if there's one thing I would change about my business, I'd probably call it 5S Sales Advisors instead of consultants. Consultancy can have negative connotations. I'm sure there's lots of people listening and watching that have hired a consultant at some point, maybe were dissatisfied. I'm different from a traditional consultant in that I actually do shit. Right. So a fractional sales executive, just like any of the other fractional functional folks like CFOs, CMOs, CHROs, we come in and take control of the function. Assess the situation, got to hire, got to fire, look at sales strategy,
go in and
quotas.
Roll up your sleeves.
Exactly, and that's what I liked about it, because I've always been kind of a hands-on, lead from the front type guy. So that's what attracted me, to kind of that concept.
Right. And a little bit about you and your background. You came from corporate.
I did. Yeah, I came from a big corporation.
And not downsized.
I was not downsized. I made the choice to hop out. But going way back, I'm actually a recovering electrical engineer.
That's right. We did have this conversation because I thought you had way too much personality for an engineer.
And
sorry, my engineer friends.
We're an interesting people.
Yes, for sure.
And I had a boss take me out to lunch one day, and sat down and order our sandwiches or whatever, and he looks at me and says, "Rob, you're not an engineer." And I thought,
thank God.
I thought I was in trouble. I thought I'd messed something up and he was going to let me go. But so anyway, that stuck with me. And a couple of years later, I had an opportunity to transition into sales for a big corporation that was actually based here in Houston called Cooper Industries.
Okay.
And that was my transition into sales. And when I did that, the guy that was several layers above me, the VP of sales, is a great guy, awesome leader, still a friend of mine. And I wanted to be him when I grew up.
Right.
So in corporate, you take the jobs they tell you to take. You move to the cities they tell you to move to. That's how I got to Houston from St. Louis. And got to the top, looked around, I was like, this sucks. The higher you go in a big machine, big complicated machine like that, the fiercer the politics and that kind of thing. And I felt like, I was just kind of a high paid idiot.
Yeah.
Just because things are complicated to get done. I can see the answer. It's right there, but you gotta
That's
you gotta
so
navigate.
true. That is so, you're like, okay, I can see it. We just need to do this, flip the switch, let's go. And then you're like, okay, well, now we're a week into the process and everybody has to see it.
Let's have another meeting.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
so frustrating.
Exactly. So it was very frustrating for me, which is what's so rewarding about what I do now. I like to say I take all of the good stuff from corporate, the process, the strategy, and that kind of thing, and leave behind the stuff that bogs it down.
Right.
So when I go into a small business, I mean, it's almost like cutting the grass. It's that gratifying because you can make a difference right out of the gate.
That fast.
Yeah. So it's pretty awesome. It's a lot of fun.
So kind of who do you work with in that aspect?
Sure. Yeah. Small and medium-sized businesses, generally between $2 and $20 million in revenue. That's kind of the fat part of the bell curve. I work in the tails as well. I've got a client that's struggling to break $1 million right now. Just engage with them. And I've worked with big companies too. I did a paid speaking engagement for a big corporation in the fourth quarter, talking about how you operate in COVID.
Right.
So, but 2 to 20 million, and people will ask, do you like a particular industry? I do. I like manufacturing. That's my background. That's where I spent my career.
Okay.
Was in manufacturing, so I just kind of get that. But I've also worked with tech companies. I've worked with insurance companies.
So you just kind of go in and roll up your sleeves. I mean, I love the one that we were talking about just the other day. Is you just kind of go in and they need to grow. Like they want to, break $1 million, and you're just going to go in and be like, okay, let's do this. Here's where you guys need to have some more communication. Right. And until then, you need a sales force, and you're their sales force as well as their everything else to get them to that $1 million. And exactly. I think that's such a cool thing.
It is. Yeah,
and such a cool niche.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. So what does something like that look like? Like you go in, do you literally go in your jeans and a polo shirt and look in the books?
Actually, yeah, a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually starts with history. Let's take a look in the rearview mirror and see, what the trends are. Dig into the customers, try to figure out how profitable they are. I help them find their best customers, usually who they think are their best customers or not.
Yeah.
If they have a sales team, I kind of say I do two things fundamentally. Either fix a sales team or I build a sales team. Sometimes a mixture, but if you just want to keep it simple, those are kind of the two things. So if there is an existing sales team, 9 times out of 10, none of them have quotas. So they have no real goals. Right.
Yeah. No, you can't do anything without knowing and having a direction and something to shoot for.
So one of the things that you hear a lot out of a good potential client is, I can't find the right salespeople because they don't know how to pay them. They don't know how to manage them. So they may hire a rep, and then 3 months down the road they're gone.
Well, and they're not incentivized properly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so when I sit down with a potential client, it's kind of like a triage. I don't know if I can help them whenever I first sit down. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of it.
Right.
And one of the first questions I ask is, what are your goals? And I'm shocked at how many times I get the simple response of, we want to grow. There's no number.
Okay.
There's no
you're
number.
going to help us with that, right?
Yeah. So that's number one. That's what I lead with. But I think perhaps the most important question that I ask is, are you okay with your sales reps making more money than you as the owner?
And
if the answer to that question is no, then I don't want to work with that person.
Yeah. What a great qualifying question on how committed they really are.
Exactly.
To growing. So, and on that note, you guys, we will be right back with Rob Smith, my co-host, and you're watching the Edgy Entrepreneur Show after this quick break.
Edge Radio TV is holding auditions for new show hosts. Are you a subject matter expert, professional, influencer, book author, thought leader, or business owner with an educational or motivational platform? Then we want to meet you. Send a link of some of your work to edgeradio20@gmail.com and be sure to put audition in the subject line. Join the Edge Radio TV family. Edge TV, because truth still matters.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
I'm trying not to lose my head.
Hey, this is the Talk About Unity show where I bring the talk.
And I bring the unity.
And together we talk about unity. Unity is what matters.
Come on.
And right now in our country, that's what we've got to do. So we do that here at Talk About Unity on the Edge Radio Network. Be with us every week.
It's going to be awesome. It always is. And I tell you what, the more we seek first to understand, then be understood, we make progress.
And we like to do that. And that's why everybody's on the brink. We love what we do at Edge Radio because everybody's on the edge. We bring them back from the edge and we bring the unity. So we're just glad. Edge Radio Network every Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Talk About Unity because here at Edge Radio Network, truth still matters.
Welcome back, my edgy entrepreneurs. Welcome, welcome. You're watching the Edgy Entrepreneur Show. I am your host, Jenn Colmenares, and this is my co-host, Rob Smith with 5S Sales. We left off on you asking a great question to qualify, who you're going to work with. Yep. As far as business owners. Are they okay with their sales team making more than they are? I'm like, well, no. I'm like, that's kind of
the smart ones are like, absolutely.
Yeah, the more they make, the more I make. So kind of, what does that look like? I mean, I'm sure you get all kinds of answers to that question.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm surprised that I don't get no. I thought I would get no to that more than I actually do. So there are. I mean, there are a lot of smart business owners out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, it really is true. If you design your compensation plan as a small business owner for, to incent the right behavior, you can afford a salesperson better than you probably deserve.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the art, like I love how you're talking about incentivizing and setting that structure up. There's a million different ways.
Sure.
I mean, industry standard. I mean, like there's not just one thing. I know so many people that are in edgy entrepreneurs and that are in the sales industry, and I'm always intrigued by the way that they're paid and how they're incentivized and what their 1-year goal and then even what their 3-year goal looks like. That says a lot for me when somebody onboards and they have a 3-year plan.
Absolutely. And that's one of the first things that I do. Look at history, and then let's kind of look at the predictors of the leading indicators of the business, and let's build a 3-year plan, because you're right. As a kind of a function of the onboarding, you should be sharing that 3-year plan.
For sure.
People. And that's kind of the number one problem, I would say, is that an owner may have a vision, not the guy that answers the question, we want to grow.
Right, yes.
Because there are owners out there that do have plans whenever I come in and that kind of thing. The disconnect is, though, you got to trickle those high-level goals. So say an entrepreneur we want to put up $5 million in 2021. What does that mean to Joe or Susie specifically? Right.
True. Right. Where's their piece of the pie?
Exactly.
Like, what's in it for me? I'm like, that's what we all want to know.
That simple, critical piece is what gets missed 99% of the time.
And why do you think that is? Like, where do you think the disconnect is?
Well, I think it's just a simple function of, oftentimes it's the owner acting as the sales manager. And
True.
that person has never spent a day of their life in sales.
True.
And it kind of takes one to know one.
Yeah.
If you're going to get the most out of your team.
Special breed.
Yeah.
You got to know how to work with us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned every entrepreneur is a salesperson.
Yes.
Whether they realize it or not. They may not like it. There's a lot that don't.
Yes.
They just want to do what they do best. But you
Very
have to be.
And there is an art
and
to it.
that's really where the sales coach should live.
Yeah.
Right. So I just don't do that.
Yeah, no, you want to get in there and you want change. Like, you want to see
Exactly.
the analytics and you want a return on their investment, and you just want to get in
I
and
got to
dig
show
in
value
and
because
go.
they're paying me a lot of money to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about, paying you a lot of money to be there.
This one's pro bono, right?
I'm not paying him a lot of money. Y'all are getting all of this for free. But no, a lot of money to be there. You went from your corporate job, into you just pulled the ripcord, and you weren't part of downsizing. This was your vision.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that and what that looks like as, the country starts to shut down and you're like, woohoo, let's go.
Giddy up.
Yeah.
Some days I question the vision. So my company name, 5S Sales Consulting, it's because there are 5 Smiths who decided we wanted a different quality of life.
I love that. I love that. I'm just finding that out.
Yeah.
Like, that is so beautiful.
We were sitting in the driveway.
This is family, so you're referring to wife and 2 daughters.
My wife,
son.
Emily, of 22 years as of last Saturday.
Aw, congratulations.
Yeah, I tell her I'm surprised I put up with her shit for this long.
Right.
She may be listening.
Did she put up with you mean?
Yeah, that's really the truth of it. And then we have 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son. And in my old life, I was gone all the time. I was on every week. I was on anywhere from 2 to 6 planes a week. Yeah.
And that's exhausting.
Oh, it is.
Exhausting.
And we've lived in Houston now for 14 years, and the majority of that time I've lived a relatively anonymous life because I was never here outside of maybe participating in church events or the parents of our kids' friends. I had no network outside of the professional, the business that I did around Houston.
Yeah.
So this has been, I didn't realize it while I was still in corporate, but I'd lost purpose. I wasn't learning anymore. So this has been a great way for me to actually be a part of a community, this great community of Houston. There's some really, really interesting people here.
Yes.
And from all backgrounds and in different businesses. And so this has been really, really rewarding for me to engage in this space.
I love that it's 5S Consulting. I did not know that.
And well,
even
kind of the secondary benefit of that, and if there are any operations monkeys watching, 5S is actually a lean principle as well.
Okay.
And I liked, again, totally secondary, but I like the fact that it suggests that there's some amount of science that goes into sales.
Yes. Yes.
Because despite what some folks may tell you, sales is not art. It's science.
Numbers.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're selling bananas or baseballs. The same fundamentals have to exist.
Yes. And that is so true. I love that. Like, you're such a nerd.
I am. My wife, going back to my recovering electrical engineer, double E, and my wife likes to tell me that you can't spell geek without double E. But I'm quick to remind her you can't spell beer without double E either.
Right? Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Man, yeah, that's beautiful. And that y'all were just kind of all in on it,
Yeah.
And what did that look like? So how long had you kind of been missing out on being apart? Because you have teenage daughters. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that was, I made the comment that you're like my dad growing up. My dad was gone. He left Sunday night. We drop him off at the airport and pick him up Friday. And then, I mean, what does that look like?
Since we've been in Houston, I was a road warrior.
Yeah.
So shortly after we moved here, I got promoted into like a global development position. So I mean, I was around the world all the time.
And different time zones, I guess.
Yeah, I did that for 4 years, and it took me, I think, about 2 months to sleep through the night. because
Wow.
my body clock was just all
Was
screwed up.
so messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being your own boss now,
Yep.
I'm like the good, the bad, and the beauty in all of that. How does that look different for you and your family? For sure. Obviously, I mean, there's different stresses, but then there's so many more rewards also.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, well, I'm not traveling.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
yeah, locally.
And it's sort of weird because there's a lot of people not traveling just because of the
Yes.
pandemic and that kind of thing. So that change, although it would have been forced, probably would have been this. But I'm not gone all the time.
Yes.
I'm not missing kids' events.
Ah.
Actually picking them up from school every now and then or dropping them off. And
They're
so,
like, Dad.
yeah, I was kind of worried. While I was excited about launching the business, despite the environment and that kind of thing, I was kind of worried that I was going to quit traveling and my wife would divorce me. Cause,
Right. I'm like,
you not being here has been a
and-
very good thing, as it turns out. But no, it's been good.
That's awesome. Well, and on that note, we're going to take a break really fast. So, my Edgy Entrepreneurs, we'll be right back after a short break.
When people stop talking to each other, society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
Aren't you tired of not getting what you want in bed?
Are you ready to spice things up behind those closed doors?
Woo! We're here for you every hump day at 7 p.m.
This is Sex on the Edge with Jen and Hen. I'm Jennifer Reeves.
And I'm Hendrik Scott, and we are professional licensed sex therapists.
So remember to watch us Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Edge Radio TV, just in time for sexy time.
Welcome back, my Edgy Entrepreneurs. This is the Edgy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Jenn Coleman-Ayers, and we are visiting with my co-host, Rob Smith, today of 5S Consulting, and we're talking about the good, the bad, and the beauty of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. You kind of came from the corporate world, and even before then, engineer, as you said, you're a recovering engineer. And then here you are, during COVID and the shutdown, you had this great plan that you were going to transition. And then the world threw a big curveball to you. So kind of what did that look like? And you still went for it. It's like you still went ahead and took that leap. Yep. What did that decision really look like? Where did that come from?
Well, it was just in the fact that, kind of going back to the name of the company, I was just done.
Yeah.
I was unhappy. Yeah, exactly. I needed to do something, and my wife was very supportive and recognized that and was 100% in.
Nice.
So that part of it made it easy. But as I launched and started working, and I mean, it was a lot of networking at first, which during a pandemic,
completely different.
I had to quickly figure out how to do the virtual thing, and that's
and what did that look like? I mean, because we were all kind of there struggling, but you were launching a business. Like, we were just kind of transitioning to what we were already doing onto an online platform, and you were trying to get your face out there and your business out there. So what did that really look like?
It was a lot of work on LinkedIn. Really.
Okay.
That's kind of where it started.
Okay, just conversations.
Exactly, reaching out to people who are adjacent to me, other fractional leaders, bankers, lawyers, exit planners, those kind of folks.
Okay.
And that's kind of where it started, and following sort of a script during those meetings so that I would glean the information that I needed, about them to, know about their business, because it's rare that I engage with a company that sales is the only thing that's messed up.
Right.
I need to know those other folks so that I can refer business into them. So that's really where it started. And I would say I really started the networking in June, and that was a time where things had, kind of started to ease up. So in-person stuff was
so we were over it by that point.
Exactly. Yeah. May it kind of started coming back, right? And then we had another spike. So where it had kind of started to shift. I was doing more in person than virtual, and it shifted right back.
Yeah.
And I landed my first client in July, and just kind of took off from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And is it something? Would you do it again, or how would you?
Well,
how would you position?
I'm still doing it.
Yeah. You're still here. Like, I'm still here.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that I can look at the.
I've got people, but
I mean, my practice is profitable. Yes. I'm very thankful for that. During a pandemic, you and I were talking, before.
Mm-hmm.
When I built a plan.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty aggressive, impatient guy. Candidly, I'm behind that plan.
Yes.
And that's frustrating. My wife has to talk me in off the ledge every so often.
So true. And I love that you said that, because that so resonated with me is, I'm a doer. Like, come on, let's go, let's do.
Let's get this shit done.
Yes. And it is so hard, I guess, just as an entrepreneur, you're like, come on, let's go. But then everybody has so much going on that you kind of have to realize how things function at a different pace,
right,
and how to work within that.
To be patient, because if there's, you can read all kinds of stuff online about how, sales has changed during all this, and is it the death of the salesman? It's not the death of the salesman.
No.
It's just, it's different, right?
Yes.
And fundamentally, I think the pitch is dead. You can't pitch. People are going to turn off because there's so much other shit going on. They've got a lot of stuff going on with, at home, kids at home for some.
Yeah, true.
That's, you just have to have a lot more empathy, I think, and make it.
Yeah.
I think if there's a good thing, and I don't know if this will, maintain or not, I think you need to be more human and relatable. So it's become, I think business has become a little bit more personal. Because you'll sit and you'll talk about personal stuff that maybe, in February of last year, you might just write to brass tacks, right?
Yes.
Let's get into it and get the deal done. Close.
Yes.
And you have to be a lot more patient and empathetic, I think, now.
And you're right. I think that a lot of it kind of has shifted. I call it an evolution of times. We kind of spent that time in quiet and going inward, and from that, I know for me, I've craved those relationships and those connections. And like, business has always been about doing business with people that like, and trust.
Yep, absolutely.
But now it's more so like I want to know, like, I love the fact that I know now that, it's 5S for that reason, for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's beautiful about this show. As the Edgy Entrepreneurs, I have that opportunity to really understand and to kind of dive in. I'm like, you were a family man. Like, you didn't do this alone. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to go out and grow this. It's I don't have a purpose. Like, I'm in the corporate world and I don't feel like I'm serving a purpose, and I'm missing my family.
Yep.
So, and I love how you melded that together beautifully, and now you're there more.
Yep, absolutely.
But tell us a little bit more just on a faith base of how you've just kind of stepped out, and how do you operate and in both of those worlds even?
Well, I mean, to do that, fundamentally, I think you have to have the drive, right? Some people do, some people don't, right?
Yeah. It's that special little grit that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But, I guess I realized that there really is no security in having a corporate job. Unfortunately, thousands and thousands of people learned that in 2020.
Yes.
So any sense of security is false security. And, when you're in a big, complicated organization, it's tough to affect change, right? So,
you're the squeaky wheel.
Well, decisions are being
Maybe.
made. Yeah, often, I'm not saying always, but often decisions are being made from on high, and you have no control over that.
Right.
So if I'm going to bet on something, I think I'm going to bet on myself.
True.
That I can go do what I think I can go do. And, I think this journey for me kind of has been a test of faith. Because there are good days and bad days. I told you I was behind plans. Sometimes I just wake up pissed off.
Yeah.
Because I want this, and I want this now, and I know I can do it, but
Yeah.
I'm just, frustrated. And, being in a corporation, the conversation you and I had just a little bit ago.
Yeah.
If you want to be, it's kind of overly dramatic, but it's kind of slavery.
Yeah.
Right? And I told you about, my wife and I decided at the beginning of the year we were going to, read the Bible together, cover to cover.
Yes.
Never done that before. I'm 46 years old. I've never.
I was right there.
I don't know that I've even
I
read
still
a whole.
haven't. I download the app every year.
I hadn't even read a verse. But there's this really cool podcast by Father Mike Schmitz, and he does a Bible, like some verses every day, and then he spends like 8 to 10 minutes explaining it. Well, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I was having just kind of a crappy day. A deal had fallen through, and I was just angry
and more frustrating. It's hard to it's hard to give yourself your own pep talk. When you're like that, you're like, "Argh."
Yeah. So it was me and my wife and my 2 older kids, my daughters. I'm sitting there, and the verse we were reading was Numbers, and they, it's that point where, the Israelites have, left Egypt, left slavery,
right?
And now they're in this desert, and they're wondering if why'd they follow this idiot, and why did they?
Yeah, what was I thinking? This is hard.
They're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Back in Egypt, we had garlic, and we had oils, and it was
forget that
great.
we were slaves.
Yeah,
we had all these great amenities.
And it clicked for me. Just that simple kind of analogy. I looked over at my wife, and it's like, and she looked at me knowingly, like, yeah. So what I equate that to is have faith, right?
Yes.
Have faith, because you're doing. I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
And I've, just like anyone else, you have doubts, you have thoughts. I'm like, shit, should I go back and get a real job? Go back into corporate. That what clicked for me is corporate's kind of like, to me, like slavery.
Yeah.
Right. I had all kinds of resources whenever I was.
That's what you're talking about, the expense accounts.
Yeah, exactly. Boondoggles to Ireland with customers.
Right.
Playing golf.
Some extra cushion and padding there is nice.
Like I said, the 2 things that I miss about corporate are the good people that are still there, and the expense account.
Right. Yeah.
So that's, I guess, a long answer to your question, but it's been a test of faith, and I'm still on the journey.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to talk about more of that on the way back, of how do you stay strong in your faith? How do you know that you're on the right track? Because as entrepreneurs and business builders and family people, it's not just me on hoeing this road. So there's a lot of other factors that go into it outside of us as well.
Absolutely.
So stick around as we come back. The Edgy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Jenn Coleman-Ayers, and my co-host here, Rob Smith. You're watching on Edge Radio TV.
The Natural Nation Network is really about taking control of your health physically, spiritually, emotionally, even intellectually, because there's so much out there in misinformation. There's a lot of people now that are suffering from all sorts of diseases that they really wouldn't have to suffer for if they had better information. And that's what we're here to do. Provide information that can save lives.
The mind and the body are totally connected.
Health can be really serious, and you know, sometimes we just have to lighten it up a little bit while we're still providing substantive information.
And you know, my sort of mantra on the salsa dance floor is kind of similar. You know, I tell somebody, if you make a mistake twice, it becomes a move. Okay?
Tune into Natural Nation every Tuesday at 11 a.m.
Welcome back, my edgy entrepreneurs. You're watching the Edgy Entrepreneur Show on Edge Radio TV. I'm your host, Jenn Coleman-Ayers, and today I'm visiting with my co-host, Rob Smith of 5S Consulting, and we are just talking about the good, the bad, and the beauty of what it is to be your own boss. And I think the last segment was really the beauty in what it is to be your own boss and how you've stepped out in faith to build this, but literally in faith. You know, it was a foundational decision that has been built on, you know, following your heart and finding your passion.
Yeah.
So I guess tell me just a little bit about what that looks like and how the home life is different now, that you really are following your passion. You are a different person, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that I am.
Yeah.
I think, you know, when you're in a situation that, you know, you're not enjoying it, I mean, you bring that home with you whether you realize it or not. So
right.
I'm hopeful. I've never asked the question, maybe for fear of the answer, but
right, you don't really want to know.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that
you're like, hey, my world is so pretty around here, so you just go with it.
I'm hopeful that I'm a better husband and father. I'm certainly
for
happier.
Sure. For sure.
And you carry that around with you.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different mindset.
And more, you had mentioned kind of corporate world, you'd lost your passion and your purpose.
Yeah.
Like, so now what do you see? Are you building a legacy? Are you building kind of, what's your vision?
Yeah, you know, so I've found one thing that I didn't think about on the front end is there's lots of good things about being a consultant. You know, you can do what you want.
Right.
You can, you know, make choices as to the type of people or businesses you want to work with. You're not forced to really do anything.
Right.
So that's certainly, you know, freeing. I think the downside to consulting is really you're just trading hours for dollars. Right.
Yeah.
So, and my business, my product is me. I'm selling my experience, you know, my 20 something years. And in sales and in a big organization that I'm going to bring the good of that to a small business owner, there's a finite, I can only go so far. I mean, you can increase fees and stuff like that, but there's going to be a ceiling, at some point. So, and once it's not me, then it's not really the same company. So I think it's more of a lifestyle company really than it is, something that I'm going to necessarily build a brand and sell it to somebody.
Yes.
So, as far as how long that lasts or
what that looks like, for sure.
It's a lot of, just my company and that kind of thing. I go into companies and I establish processes and strategy and stuff like that, and
all this stuff that
CRM systems and
needs to be
all
done,
stuff.
but
and
none of that icky stuff that we want to get done. Like, we know that it needs to be done, and as entrepreneurs, we're so busy in our business, we're so busy like treading that water and making sure that we're keeping all the plates spinning. You're needed.
So I go in and do all of that stuff for other people, but I don't have any of that in my business.
Like the cobbler's child.
That's what I was going to say. Cobbler's children go shoeless.
Yes.
But I don't necessarily need a CRM. My sales cycle is very, very short.
Okay.
So I don't need a CRM system.
When you say your sales cycle is very short, so kind of what is the average time that you are looking to work with a client?
So the duration of the engagement, I do a lot of different things, but fundamentally it's that kind of hired gun sales leader thing. That's generally a year engagement.
Okay. Interesting. So back to the faith aspect of it. I love that you're reading the Bible on it. Listening to the Bible.
Yeah, listening. Yeah. Well, I read along.
I was going to say, do you follow along at least?
Sound out the tricky words, but yep.
So where would you say that your faith has kind of played in, and what lessons have you learned? Like, now that you're out of the corporate world and you feel like you have more of a purpose, how has that voice changed?
I would say the faith comes in getting me through those, days where I just wake up mad. Because, I don't have, I'm not where I thought I was going to be after a year. But I don't know that I necessarily know how to answer it. It's just, you got to keep doing it, right? Because I know what I don't want.
So, so even in those moments, and I love that you said that, because there are days, like yesterday was a day for me. Like, I'm not always on. Like, I'm not always 100%. And you look back and it's like, okay, well, I thought I would have this. I thought I would do this. And for me, it's a matter of shifting. Like, the way that I shift out of that is, one, I have my practice, my routine that I have myself set up for. So I do, my lemon water in the morning, and then I meditate, even though my ego is like, I don't want to sit down and do this. Like, I don't want to do
Right.
It's like, no, I want to feel better. So just do this. So, do that, and then do the hard stuff first. Make those calls. Get out and show up for that engagement, for that networking event. Even, you're not feeling 100% on all the time. And it's connecting. It's getting that connection and knowing that I'm operating from my heart. And being heart-centered in this, it just changes all of that. But those bad days are rough, especially when you're the boss.
Yeah, you got to dig deep. That's why I say, if you don't have drive, then you're probably not going to survive as an entrepreneur. And it seems like, for me, and I don't know, I'll ask you the question if this is true for you as well. It seems like something always happens, something little, like that, epiphany that I had at the dining room table sitting there with my daughters and my wife. Somebody else posts something on LinkedIn or something that I'll stumble across, or maybe I'll go to a webinar or something and something said that just, kind of, makes that connection for you. Like, what, this is important stuff.
Yeah, I've heard it a million times, but for some reason.
And action equals happiness, I think, to a large degree. So if you do find yourself, going down that rat hole, and of self-doubt, and holy shit, what did I do, and that kind of thing, I think you have to be aware of where that is, and just ask yourself kind of an interrupting question: what good is going to come of this?
Yes.
I was talking to another solopreneur who's got his own kind of consulting thing, he's like, man, I'm staying up all night. I'm worrying about stuff. And I'm like, you can't do that, man.
Yeah.
What good came out of you getting like 2 restless hours of sleep last night? You don't have to grind on it because your mind is your brain is just a wonder.
Yeah.
You know, like when you, oh shit, what was his name? And then you quit thinking about it and you're doing something else. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's the same with like business problems or anything like that. Your mind is still working on it.
Yes.
Just don't obsess over it.
I love that you're saying all this.
Yeah, the guy that I was talking to is actually also ex big corporate.
Mm-hmm.
And, so he was, you know, he's doing okay, but kind of like me, was in one of those moods where he was down on himself and stuff. So
we all get there. I'm like, we all need.
What good is going to come of this?
Yeah. And that's what I love.
That one works for me.
My industry and coaching, you know, it's like I'm here to help you, right? Yeah. I'm here to bring out your inner goddess. Is what I like to say.
Do I have an inner goddess?
We all have an inner goddess, Rob. It's that good and the bad and the beauty. And how do you tap into that purpose and really that you're operating from that essence of who you are? And we're not here. I mean, you didn't have children just so that they could grow up and be, you know, a cog in the manufacturer's wheel. That's what none of us have, you know, and we really, I think this time during COVID, again, the evolution, you know, I went inward, like, what do I want my children? What do I want for them? You know, do I want them to be like, okay, well, so I went to work today.
Carrying his lunch pail. You know,
I'm like
6 a.m. every day.
Hello, my name is Joe. I work in a button factory. I've got a wife, a dog, and a family. I'm like, no, I want them to grow. I want them to build and create. And I really believe that that's what we're all here for. We're all here to create. And the faster and the sooner that you can get centered in that. And really, there's this strength and this power that comes with knowing at your core that this is my purpose and I'm here to help people. And I think it's so beautiful at what you do in helping businesses that, you know, otherwise they're just kind of lost.
Right. Exactly.
You know, I mean, you're giving them an opportunity to build a legacy.
Yeah, there's usually 2 types of businesses that I work with. Those that have kind of plateaued, right? Because the owner is acting as a sales manager and doesn't know how to run a sales team or her sales team. So plateaued or declining in growth are those that are in kind of hyper growth, and the owner realizes, I've never built a sales team in my life. This is an important component of my business.
Important aspect.
I should probably get somebody in here who's done this a bunch of times. Yeah.
Now, do you notice with those people, are they already showing up for themselves, or is that even a component of it?
I think by and large they are, but you do run into, you know, I had a client that I had to fire back in October. It was just a hot mess. Couldn't get out of his own way. Yeah.
See, and that's sad. That's sad. And that even that they would go out on the limb to hire and know that they need help. Yeah. We just nurture them. You just exactly. Love them from a distance.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you put them, you know, in the drip campaign, right?
Yes. Yeah. You'll be back around and help you build there. So what else? I mean, kind of, you know, where do you see yourself going? Like, where do you kind of network and fit in and meet people?
Yeah. So I still do a lot of LinkedIn outreach, but, you know, I'm in a bunch of networking groups as well. I'm part of a Vistage group. A friend of mine that's he's in the valuations and exit planning business, started a forum here in Houston for manufacturing professionals. So that's been a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, you know, a lot of the standard stuff, NIA and that kind of thing.
Nice.
Always on the lookout. I'm a member of the Private Directors Association, which is here. I actually got invited to the Houston Ethics
That just sounds all fancy.
Houston Ethics League. I can't remember what exactly. No, Business Ethics League.
Okay.
Which has been an interesting one. Yeah.
Oh, well, do share. I'm like, just the name of it alone.
Well, it was an interesting mix. So one of my fellow PDA members, I think, runs that kind of group here in Houston. And interesting guy. Still getting to know him, but there was a priest.
Okay.
When you show up to a business networking event and there's a priest, that was wow. Okay.
Okay, on that note, we're going to be right back. So, I want to dig into...
Sounds like the beginning of a bad joke.
It sounds like a bad joke. It does. So, my Edgy Entrepreneurs, we'll be right back after a quick break. You're watching the Edgy Entrepreneur Show on Edge Radio TV Network.
Are you a small business owner concerned about the downturn in the economy? Top business leaders like Mattress Mac and Warren Buffett will tell you that now is the time to promote your business more than ever. People need your services. Your business needs an edge. Learn about special advertising packages for small businesses right here on Edge Radio. Find out more, give us a call at 281-744-0446. That's 281-744-0446. Edge, because truth still matters.
Edge Radio TV is holding auditions for new show hosts. Are you a subject matter expert, professional, influencer, book author, thought leader, or business owner with an educational or motivational platform? Then we want to meet you. Send a link of some of your work to edgeradio20@gmail.com and be sure to put audition in the subject line. Join the Edge Radio TV family. Edge TV, because truth still matters.
Welcome back, my Edgy Entrepreneurs. You're watching the Edgy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Jenn Coleman-Ayers, and this is my co-host, Rob Smith with 5S Sales Consulting. And we were cracking up on break, and as we went into the break, you were going to tell us about this networking event with a priest that started out just funny. So anything that starts out with a priest and a professor.
Yeah, really. I don't know if I'll be able to complete that joke.
Yeah.
It did sound like the beginning of a bad one.
It was, yes. But talking about networking, I mean, there's all kinds of different walks and different aspects of what's out there. How do you kind of break it down? You know, I mean, how does somebody find you, and how does somebody realize that they need you?
Well, the last question you asked, I'll answer first. And I was having a networking meeting with a new friend of mine, Oais Qureshi, and I probably totally wrecked that last name. Right. But at the end of it, he asked me a question. He's like, what's the one question I could ask a business owner that would tell me whether or not they need to work with you? And it put me on my heels. I was like, shit, that's
a great question.
What is that? He's like, don't worry, man.
I do this all the time.
Yeah, I do this all the time. Nobody answers it, or very few. So thought about it overnight, and probably about midday the next day it hit me, and I sent him an email. I'm like, here's my question. And it's, is your sales team performing, I messed that up. Is your sales team's performance satisfactory?
Yes. Yeah, I was going to butcher it, so I wasn't even going to try to help you out there. I was like, it's a great question. Just go ahead with that.
Yeah, is your sales team's performance satisfactory? And if the answer is no, you should probably introduce me.
Yeah.
The beauty part is, if the answer is yes,
yeah,
you should probably introduce me as well, because it's just satisfactory.
Right. Yeah, who wants to be mediocre in this
who
world?
wants to grow at 2%, year over year? Let's put up 20.
Yeah.
In fact, any answer to that question outside of no, they're fucking rocking it.
Yeah.
It's probably a good introduction. And maybe I need to tune that a little bit. It's only about a week or two old.
And that's another thing is practice.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So where you and I met at Reveille, that in addition to it just being a good kind of eclectic bunch of people,
it was an interesting group of people. It really was.
It's a great place to kind of try out, new pitches or twists in like 20 seconds to tell, somebody what you do to get them interested.
Yeah.
So it does take a lot of practice. And I can't remember what your first question was.
I don't remember.
But I mean, I'll talk about anybody. Doesn't matter because, I mean, I do spend a lot of time with the other fractional leaders around town because, like I said, the same as me, it's rare that it's just sales that are messed up.
Yeah.
If a fractional CFO goes in to start looking at the books and their monetary strategy, then he may recognize, oh crap, we have a revenue problem, not a cost problem. And a revenue problem would be mine to solve.
And I just think that's so. I really think it's interesting. I had no idea. I mean, I come from a small business and family owned, and that I've built a couple of businesses, but not to the extent that we were like, okay, we need this. But I mean, maybe had it we known, honestly, because that's what I think we get in our own way so much of the time. Yeah. There's so much out there that we do have access to, but we have the blinders on. Like we're not
business
open
ownership.
To
is not for the faint of heart. You're busy.
Yeah,
you're very, very busy. And I think the struggle a lot is working in your business versus working on your business. And I mean that's what any fractional leader is going to help you do, because I basically sell a day a week of my time.
Yeah.
To business owners. And one potential client was struggling with the fact that he was only going to own me for 8 or 10 hours a week, right? And he's like, I don't think that's enough time. He had 2 or 3 sales reps, 3. He's like, that's not enough time. And I asked him, I was like, well, how much time are you spending with your sales team? And it was kind of that, put him back on his heels, kind of like that always question to me.
Yes.
He's like, 2 or 3, which probably means 1 or 2.
Right. And so, not digging into it even behind the scenes. That's just kind of, off the cuff as it's going.
That got him over the hump. So I'm going to quadruple, or maybe 5x the amount of attention your sales team's getting just by me working a day.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then you pay for yourself. And again, you have interesting pay scales. I mean, you work with all kinds of people in all different industries and all
absolutely
different aspects. So tell people where they can find you.
Sure.
And
sure.
kind of
you can call me or text me at 346-224-4594.
I love it when my guests give out their digits on the air.
Hey,
there you go.
You can call me. Shit, it's on my.
Don't put it on the bathroom stall, y'all.
Yeah, exactly. Be nice. Be nice.
5S. It was 5S.
I've got my phone number on my LinkedIn page as well. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Or you can email me at rsmith@sales, the letter X, acceleration.com.
Awesome. And then LinkedIn, you're on LinkedIn. And then if they wanted to run into you, just kind of around town and networking events.
Yeah, kind of all over. Mostly on the north side.
Okay.
Because I'm on the north side of Houston.
Okay.
But I also get downtown, and I've got clients kind of scattered around town. So
nice.
Yeah. If anybody wants to get together, whether it's a Zoom or over coffee or whatever, feel free to reach out.
You want to learn what chapter he's on in the Bible and read the podcast for sure.
Yeah.
This has been great. I really appreciate your time. And I think what you do, again, is just, it's amazing. It's an interesting aspect to really help entrepreneurs get out of their business and get out of their head and get into a growth mindset and just kind of blow the doors off 2021, and where they want to go in the next 3 years. So
get after it.
Yeah, get after it for sure. Go out and be the change that this world needs is what I always say. As an edgy entrepreneur, it's our job, kind of our passion to really, expand and to be on the leading edge, and our responsibility to kind of grow our community and give back. So it's been great talking with you and visiting with you. I'm like, they'll see you on LinkedIn. You guys, you can see us here, me, myself, and then next week I'm going to have Tada. So we're going to talk about the real estate industry and kind of, getting the most bang for your buck there, as well as she's got a radio show and she's introducing, cool people around the Houston area. She also started during COVID. So we'll talk about that. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can also find me at Jenn Colmenares on Facebook and Instagram. You guys go out and be the change that this world needs. Until next time, I'm Jenn with the Edgy Entrepreneur Show.